Hi everyone, and welcome to this video. In this video, I want to show you how to draw a humpback whale. In this example, I'm using a mechanical pencil with HB leads along with a standard 6B pencil. I also used blending sticks to smooth the shading and a small eraser to add texture and highlights. Towards the end, I also used a white GellyRoll pen for some additional highlights, and the paper I used is called Smooth Bristol board. But I promise you can use any pencils and any paper, and you'll be able to create something similar to this. I began by sketching some rough outlines of the whale's body, along the top and along the bottom. At the same time, I was looking at a few photos for reference, and I was just sketching lightly, so it was easy to erase anything if I needed to change any details later on. I then started adding the mouth, following along quite close to the top of the head, and then it angles downwards in alignment with the slight hump I added at the bottom of the whale's body. Behind the mouth, I was then able to add the eye, and after that I started adding a series of lines called the ventral pleats. I sketched the area where I would later add the pectoral fin, and then moved back to the head, adding some small bumps called tubercles, along with some barnacles, and at the top I added the blowholes. I continued on and sketched the tail fin at an angled view, also continuing to adjust the shape of the whale's body to flow correctly from the head. And after adding the tail fin, I also added the dorsal fin in front of that. Then it was time to sketch the pectoral fins, making sure the one in the background on the other side of its body was a bit smaller, as it's further away, and I wanted the one in the foreground to look quite large, as it's directed towards us. There are some grooves on the front of the fins, and I also added some more barnacles. With the sketch completed, it was time to add the shading, and I started at the whale's head, adding mid-tone shading and blending it with blending sticks to keep the texture nice and smooth. If you don't have blending sticks, you can use cotton buds or a brush, or your fingers. These are all great options. In this example, I was imagining the sun shining from above, so I added shadows at the base of the tubercles and the barnacles. For the barnacles, I used the small eraser on top of the shading to make them stand out a bit more, and then I added a few details to each one of them. I added dark shading along the mouth, and to contrast that and to develop the shape in that area, I added a highlighted ridge underneath. For the lighter shaded area, I added some dark patches along the lines I'd sketched, and then I used a blending stick over the whole area to blend a small amount of shading across it. Then from here, I used the small eraser to add some highlighting underneath each of the lines, and I feel like this contrast really helped to develop the folded shapes in this area. I used the same shading method around the whale's eye, and for the eye itself I added some dark outlines and some dark shading, but I made sure to leave a highlight so it stands out. I continued using the same shading techniques along the whale's body, making sure to blend and smooth the texture with blending sticks, but I also wanted to add some additional details. Whales often have marks and scratches on their skin, and just general wear and tear. So I added some patchy areas of shading along with some smaller details with a sharpened lead. The small eraser also helped me a huge amount when it came to adding some scratch marks. And it helps again when adding the transition between the mid-tone and the lighter shaded areas along the underside of the whale. If you don't have a small eraser like this, you could use a sharp corner of a larger one, or a kneaded eraser, anything that could create fine highlighted lines on top of the shading. For the pectoral fins, I didn't add too much detail to the one in the background. The one in the foreground required more detail as it's closer, and doing things in this way is another way of creating the illusion of distance. Focusing on the details of the closer fin really helps to bring it towards the foreground. For the final stage of this drawing, I decided to add some shading in the background with a standard 6B pencil, using the side of the lead, and then I blended it with blending sticks. And after that, I refined some of the outlines of the whale with a sharpened lead and the small eraser. I also used the eraser to add some rays of light shining down, and added them along the top of the whale's body. Lastly, I decided to use a white GellyRoll pen to add some additional highlights and some air bubbles coming from the blowholes. And then I just continued to render and refine some details across the drawing. And after that, it was completed. And overall, it took just under 5 hours. It was so fun. I find working on drawings like this really relaxing, and I highly recommend giving this a try. And if you do, please let me know. I really hope this video helps out in some way. Be sure to let me know what you think of this in the comments below, and also let me know if you have any suggestions for future videos. If you want to see more stuff like this, then feel free to subscribe, and any likes or shares on this video, they really mean a lot to me. If you want to follow and support my progress, then be sure to check out the links in the description for my Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and Patreon. And once again, thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for the support. I really, really appreciate it. And I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you all soon.